This is for you guys.
Sin justicia no hay respeto. No justice, no respect. No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Sin justicia no hay respeto.
Sin justicia no hay respeto.
No justice, no respect. No justice, no respect. Sin justicia no hay respeto. No justice, no peace.
No racist police.
¡A huevo! La raza estamos unidos. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice,
No peace.
no justice.
No peace.
We gotta move in, you guys. Wait, Adriana. I'm sorry, you guys.
You ready? Okay. I'm John Burris. I'm representing Jose Velasco and his mom, Rita Acosta, in connection with the horrible, horrible beating that Jose received from members of the Salinas Police Department a week and a half or so ago. Today I have filed a claim with the City of Salinas, essentially setting forth our view that Mr. Velasco's civil rights were violated, that he was subjected to an assault and battery, a horrific beating that was unjustified, and we have brought this claim against the city. We've also included his mom as part of the claim because she happened to witness what had taken place. A horrible thing for a mom to witness, but essentially the facts of the case have been discussed before. A lot of them have been disputed, particularly as it relates to the fact that Mr. Velasco was walking down in the street. He was committing traffic. He had some problems that day. His mom had articulated that he was having emotional problems, mental problems, and then when she saw him in the street, she tried to help him. He was calling out to her. She was calling out to him. She finally did reach him. She was trying to pull him out. He was trying to pull her out, and the police came up and arbitrarily began to assault him viciously. With at least 21, as I counted in the videos, there were 21 different strikes of the batons by 4 different officers. By any reasonable interpretation and imagination, this was woefully unnecessary, excessive, and in our own minds, criminal. And in addition to what I have filed here today, I have also prepared letters that I'm sending out today to the United States Department of Justice, Loretta Lynch, Attorney General, also to the Chief of the Criminal Division, as well as to the U.S. Attorney here in Northern California, Melinda Hay. I'm doing such because I believe that the nature of the police officer's assaultive conduct reminds me very closely of what happened in the Rodney King case, a case that I was involved in, and very much close to the case that I was involved in this past year with this woman on the who was beaten up by the CHP on the freeways in LA County. And in our view, this conduct was unjustified in any way, and really is criminal in the sense that it clearly was an intent, a reckless disregard for the civil rights of Mr. Velasco. And the manner in which these assaults continued while he was on the ground, officers ran up almost as if dogs trying to get into the frenzy. Or once I was in Africa and I saw jaguars running after engaging in a feast. And when one jaguar was eating away, another jaguar jumped in, and they were all trying to get a piece of the action. And so when I see the video, that's what I see. I see a feast that's taking place. And no human being should be subjected to that kind of beating, regardless of what they had done, particularly when they were unarmed and were not physically threatening the police officer in a way that their lives were in jeopardy. There were 4 officers around here at the time. So from my point of view, this matter should be looked at from a federal criminal civil rights prosecution. Clearly, I'm looking at it from a civil point of view, but I think the community deserves to know that the federal government will not accept this type of beating, this type of conduct. We have seen other cases throughout the country where beatings have taken place, shootings have taken place, and we now know that many of these areas are on video cameras, and as a consequence, the federal government is more inclined to be involved in those. This is a case that's done on video camera, we can all see. Now, there's always the argument about what took place before. What the mom has already said what was going on before, and officers made their own interpretation. But one thing is very clear: they never made any efforts to try to find out what was going on between he and the mom. She was saying that he needs help. He was having a medical. In fact, she called in and said that she wanted medical treatment as well as she wanted some assistance. All of which would have put the police on notice, clear notice, that they may be dealing with a person who was in the middle of some kind of emotional or mental break. We don't treat mentally impaired people in such a way that they ought to be treated and should be treated under the laws with some sense of respect. There's reasonable accommodations that ought to be made in a situation like this. Even though they were in the street, he was not causing harm to anyone of the kind that placed anyone's life in danger, that then required the kind of beating that put his life in danger. Because many of the blows that he received at the top of his head were life-threatening blows. We're very fortunate that he is not dead, frankly, or has not received debilitating long-term mental issues from a brain injury. And so, from my point of view, it is absolutely necessary, totally necessary, that due consideration be given about what has happened here, and we should not leave it to the hands of the local police to investigate themselves, because we have known in the history here that policing themselves does not necessarily lead to an objective outcome. And so we believe it happened in this case as well. Of course, some of you know that local district attorneys often are the people who are supposed to investigate these cases, but record shows throughout the country that because of the close working relationship between the district attorney's office and the police, that rarely does the district attorney view cases in a way that is objectively designed to evaluate the officer's conduct. So from our point of view, in an imperfect world that we live in, we think that criminal charges should be investigated by the federal government. And we have made that request, and hopefully they will respond. But in any event, public attention ought to know, the public ought to know that the family is not going to accept this level of brutality as business as usual, and that they are prepared to fight this both in a civil and hopefully in a criminal way. I'm representing them with reference to the civil matter, but I'm trying to instigate a criminal investigation if at all possible. So, and that part is where we are. I've also made a request to the police chief that they give us the names of the police officers who are involved. The police department has steadfastly refused to do that in terms of the public pronouncement they have made. We are making a formal request for those particular items, and under the California Supreme Court decision most recently, they have a duty, the public has a right to know the names of officers who engage in conduct that is hurtful to individuals and dangerous to other people. That people have the right to know who they are. So we have made that request. Now let me say one other thing that has kind of galls me right now. And it goes, the last week when I was here I think I was before all of you. After I left, I met with Mr. Castaneda, and I asked him to give me directions on how to get to the local jail, because I wanted to see my client. And as I'm going to the local jail, I noticed I'm traveling in my own car, Mr. Castaneda was in another car. I noticed there was a police officer with cars behind me that appeared to be following me, and us, maybe him. But anyway, I was disturbed by him. And so when I finally get to the police station, I noticed the jail that the officers had turned off. But then what has been reported, which is a bold-faced lie, that somehow Mr. Castaneda was trying to see and visit with the client. And that was just not true. I told the jailer that I'm the lawyer and I want to see Mr. Velasquez. Mr. Castaneda was there with the family. I told each one of them that they could not visit with them because of an attorney-client situation. But somehow it has been reported that he made an effort to visit the client, and this is kind of nonsense and bold lies that seek to destroy and undermine the efforts here. I am a lawyer. I do not believe that in modern-day America that civil rights lawyers ought to be followed when they try to see their clients. It's a throwback to the days when Thurgood Marshall was a civil rights lawyer in the South. When he went into those towns, he was followed by the local police officers and other people. And it undermined the integrity of the Constitution. Now, I don't know if, in fact, that was the case. I just know the police officer behind me. I also know that it was reporting that somehow that we reported that I was trying to undermine and take advantage of a situation and bring this councilman into the jail. Just not true. And I know it's not true, and I'm offended that it's reported in such a way, and I'm reported that I was offended by the fact that it appeared to be that I was followed. Now, I didn't want to say anything about that until I read it in the newspaper that appeared that somehow these officers knew that I was going to the jail, Mr. Castaneda was going to the jail, and that therefore there must have been something untoward about that. And Mr. Castaneda is a political leader. I'm a lawyer doing cases, civil rights case. I feel very strongly about it. I come in individual towns. People have their own social agendas in these towns, but I'm not part of that process. I'm here to represent a client who was brutally beaten by the police. His civil rights were violated. And that's my intent to do. And I don't want it to be confused with any of the political agendas that any one of you may have, any of the police officers may have. It's not my purpose here. The issue here, I've had several cases here now, and in those cases, each one of those cases, in my view, represents an act of civil rights violations, police brutality, where people have been killed who otherwise would not have been killed, and in this case, they've been beaten under circumstances where they should not have been beaten. And that is my particular interest here, and I'm not appreciative of being followed by the police under circumstances that appear to be in an effort to intimidate me or Mr. Castaneda. So that's my view about this. I'm going to take any questions you may have. If any other people want to talk now, they may.
What are you looking with this legal action?
The legal action that we will file today is a claim. And it is the first aspect that you must file. The claim is that we represent that Mr. Velasco and his mom had their rights violated, that those rights included assault and battery, negligent infliction of emotional distress, federal and state civil rights violations, emotional distress, etc. And the fact pattern is what I have described in that complaint. And what that means is that the city will have a period of time in which to reject the claim, which they will do. That will then mean at some point in time in the future we will file a lawsuit itself. This is not a lawsuit, this is a claim. It is the first step in filing a claim in state court based upon the state court cause of action. So this is the first step. Once this period of time has run, then we will then file a lawsuit. But the other portion of what I've done is file the lawsuit, and file the letters that I've sent off to the Department of Justice. That is about the criminal aspect of this. The criminal federal civil rights on the grounds of under color of law. These officers violated the civil rights of Mr. Velasco. That doesn't have to be race. It means they have the intent to do it. And a jury can determine whether these people came upon him when he was down and continued to rain numerous blows to his head and to his body when he was unarmed, whether or not they had the criminal intent at that time to violate the civil rights. We think it does. So that would be up to the federal court, the federal U.S. Attorney's Office to make that decision. But certainly the evidence is there. They want to take it, want to utilize it. You certainly can see it on the videotapes.
Officers say that Velasco admitted to being under the influence of methamphetamine, and including that he's been on. I'm just saying what police. Just trying to say it.
I understand. Police have made certain kind of statements. Right, I got that. About
how do you think that will?
Well, I don't believe it. And number two, the facts remain whether a person under the influence, you get to beat them to almost kill them. Our view is just because a person's under the influence, if they are, that does not mean you get to use any number of force that you want to use. Clearly, you cannot kill somebody. It's not a death sentence that you give someone just because they're under the influence, if they are. And so, but I find that we'll find whether or not that's true when we later get it.
Have you-
Whatever the police officers say, I don't accept it as true. And I just accept police officers. They always cover, they always lie. So I accept that as basic. That's something I have to fight through.
How is Mr. Velasco?
I've seen him at least twice. I think he's making a great recovery. He is, I think it's remarkable that he did not receive life-threatening injuries. Of course, you know that he was struck in the head a number of times, and he had a number of stitches that were taken in his head, stitch of his head. But I think he's making great physical progress.
How's his emotional and mental?
I think he's doing great now. I haven't seen him today. I anticipate seeing him today, but I think he's making good progress. You know, I've had other clients who've been beaten like this who don't make as good progress, but his beating was as bad as one that I've seen in modern day America. Because obviously when I did The Rodney King, that was the first episode that one could see that level of beating. Then we had the next case, which we could see with a CHP woman that was beaten up this past year. That was pretty outrageous and pretty gruesome. And now we have this case. Now I've had shooting cases, the Oscar Grant case, etc. was pretty outrageous. But there's a beating case, which means there's a level of viciousness that when you can take your baton and you can swing it time and time and time again, and a person's on the ground, you are intending to inflict substantial pain on that person. And that part that is most revealing to me is the intent to inflict substantial harm, substantial pain, and not because you had to, because you wanted to. And that's where the punitive nature of this case comes to me.
Have you listened to the 911 calls?
I've listened to some of those tapes, the 911 tapes, and I've seen the video of them.
Mr. Burris, a report was filed on the incident involving Castaneda and the jail. Are you saying police, the officer who filed the report is lying, and then maybe the clerk who had contact
I just
with?
know whatever was said was not true. Okay, you know, it winds up in the newspaper, right? And it winds up in the newspaper after I had been driving to the location, and there was a police officer behind me. Now, I didn't think much about it at the time. I mean, you know, that's the jail, so I assumed the police there. But then when you have ultimate communications about it, that is clearly not true. I know Mr. Castaneda never asked him to tell anybody that he wanted to go into the jail. He never told anybody he was a relative. I told them he was there with the family, okay? So if it comes out different than that, it's a lie, because it's not true. And that's the part that's offensive. So, and why should a report be written in the first place? What was the circumstances that justified writing the police report?
Yes.
When all we were doing was at the jail exhibit. Why was that necessary? I'm not talking to you. That's a rhetorical question. I mean, I'm not talking to any of you. It's a rhetorical question.
I mean, could it be Jose, the one who's lying?
He couldn't be lying because I heard what was said. I was standing right there. I was at the window. I'm asking the questions. Okay, so I know that he did not say that he wanted to go into the jail, and I know he didn't say that he was with the family and wanted to go into the jail. He was with the family because I told him he was with the family, but that was pretty obvious that that's with the family, but he didn't try to go into the jail. He didn't try to say that he needed to go in. I told everyone, because I know that when an attorney visits, you can't have other people visit because it's attorney-client privilege. So, you know, I told everyone what their rights were at the time. Because I know you can't go into the jail, and I don't want other people into the jail because I want to visit the client and find out what the client has to say, and there's attorney-client privilege that I don't want to waive. So it's very offensive for this kind of thing to happen, and to see it in print and a bold-faced lie raises really questions about the integrity of other people that's involved in the process.
Have you sat down to talk to the police chief at
I
all?
don't talk to the police chief. What are you talking about? I'm a lawyer. I'm pursuing the police chief. Nothing you can say to me, you know. Okay. Anybody else have something to say?
So we're now going to be moving on to the relatives. They have prepared statements and they do not wish to answer questions after they read those statements.
Can you just state your first and last name as well, please?
I'm Isabel Loya Jose Velasco's oldest sister. I'm here today to bring awareness to police brutality because June 5th has forever changed me and my family. I do not understand why this happened to my brother because our mother followed all the steps that the Salinas police have given her and my sisters from previous calls for help that they have made. Our mother clearly states in her call, I need a police officer and an emergency unit. Something's wrong. Then, please, help. My son's not well. He's sick. Then, please, be careful with my son. You never hear her say, please help me. My son is attacking me. Not once did she say that. Those officers did not listen. So I asked If this was your brother or your loved one with a mental illness such as schizophrenia, autism, dementia, or Alzheimer's, would you want any of those 5 officers to answer your call for help? Because we all seen on June 5th how Salinas police are trained to handle a call for help. If it's a person with Alzheimer's and dementia, will they be thrown in jail? No. They'll be placed in a care home so they can receive the proper care and medication. So I ask you, do you feel safe with those officers still on duty with a badge to beat and kill with no consequences? Because on June 5th, they did no protecting. My mother called for help to protect her son from harming himself, who was seen running in and out of traffic yelling "Mom" and jumping on cars. How many more Latino men need to be killed or beat before something is done about Salinas police? We stand here today united as a family and demand a federal investigation for our brother Jose Velasco. We will not stop spreading the word about Salinas police brutality, so people will not want to come to the all-American city to get their loved ones beat or shot. We will not be silenced. Justice needs to be served and those officers need to be prosecuted.
Your name again?
Isabel Lawyer.
Isabel.
Good afternoon. My name is Sabina Velasco, younger sister of Jose Velasco. I want to start off by saying and making it very clear that I am not against the Salinas Police Department. Nor do I think that all police officers abuse their power or abuse their use of force. I understand in situation force is needed to detain a person, but there has to be limits. Where were these limits in my brother's situation? I don't believe or agree with the extent of force that was used against him. I think the last officer with the purple gloves especially abused his force and had no control. I don't understand how there wasn't any other options or ways to address and handle this situation. A total of 15 calls with different concerns, but the most important call was caller number 3. His mother, she called for a medical unit and help from police officers. Her son was running through traffic and something was wrong with him. A total of 15 calls, and not one of those 5 police officers addressed the situation with that on their mind. Chief McMillan stated on the KSPW interview with Felix Cortez that the video looks terrible. But people shouldn't pass judgment until they understand what happened before and why. Okay, with the 911 calls released to the public, gave me an idea of what happened before. After hearing every single 911 call, still doesn't help me understand why. How could I understand? It was clear half of the 911 callers stated that Jose was not in the right state of mind. His mother called for help and for a medical unit. Did those officers listen? Did they listen? No. They yelled back, "Stay back." They didn't listen. I want to know why, if my mother wasn't back pounded into the pavement, why wasn't she treated as a victim? Why didn't the police officers get her statement? Why didn't the police take pictures of her body from the aftermath? Why did it take until the next day to get an officer out to get the victim, Rita Acosta's statement? And why didn't that officer know Jose Velasco was her child? I guess people will never understand this kind of situation until you live it. June 1st, June 5th has forever changed who I am. Watching that graphic video and hearing those 911 calls, especially from my mother, has forever and ever traumatized me. But watching the actions of the police officers on that video has traumatized me and hurt me more. Those are police officers who are supposed to be protecting us. How did they help that situation? Will we get justice? I want to know why. Why didn't they do anything to try to help the situation and just acted without thinking?
Because they like to cover up all the time.
Hi, my name is Antoinette Ramirez. I'm Jose Velasco's sister. All I want to say is, why are the cops who beat my brother are still in our community? Why haven't their backgrounds been looked into since they want to point out my brother's background? Why is my brother still in jail when the cops that beat him are still working and one of them behind a desk. If my brother's in jail because they're still investigating, why are those cops still getting their paycheck? Why are they still working? I want to know why did they listen to my mom's call for help, not for herself, but for her son. You can clearly hear her say on the call that she needs help for her son, not for herself. So why did they beat him?
I just want to say that when I'm Rita Costa. I just want to say when I made that 911 call for my son Jose Velasco, I clearly called that I thought I was going to get help from the Salinas Police Department. We've had incidents before, never with outcome like this. I wanted help for my son, not for myself, and I just want to say that my son didn't do anything wrong, and I do believe that he should be out. And it was just wrong what they did. They didn't even listen to my call. They said they were there for a man beating up a woman. So if they responded to that, what happened to my call and to the other calls before me? So I would like to know why did they respond to my call for help? No, he wasn't beating me up. He wasn't beating me up. I was trying to keep him from going back into the street. And everybody knows if someone's bigger than you, what do? You drop down and put dead weight on them so they can't go anywhere. So that's what I was doing to my son, and he's hovering over me, screaming and yelling, calling for help. You know, it wasn't me calling for help, it was my son. And during the 911 call, I left my phone on so they could clearly hear everything that was going on. So I don't know why they said my son was trying to hurt me when that's not what it was. But it sold more papers, got more attention. Man trying to kill his mom, which wasn't it. They could have killed my son and they didn't even put that in there. You know? So, thank you.
I was there the day all this happened. He was with us like an hour before this all took place. And,
What's your name? I'm sorry.
My name is Corey Meeks.
Spell that out.
CORYMEEKS. And he didn't. It don't matter. No one deserves a beating like that. No one. You know. I just want to say we love you, Jose. Get well. And they're wrong, man.
Yeah.
We also have members of Frank Alvarado's family. His father was.
I'd like to thank you all, you guys who got the time to spend right here and trying to put the news not for our benefit or for their benefit, just for what's going on right here in Salinas. And I guess, sometimes you got to express yourself different ways, but if you see each sign, that tells you, what it really means to. When we do the signs, we think about what's going on. That's when we really feel to tell the people. It's not being justice. It's going to be over a year that my son got killed, and it's still waiting for answers. No answers. What they tell you. What I see on TV sometimes, people like it because they like it. I'm sorry to say that. Channel A is one of them. They say that my son was engaged with a shootout, with a busting police car, holes and busting glass, and my son don't have a gun. So how happened? That tells you that there's a lot of cover-up. The same thing. Chief of police have a meeting long time ago at the University of Monterey, at Hartnell College, and the community hall to pretend, not to do it, to pretend, to be peaceful with the community, to do something for the community, to trust the community. And here's the answer. Jose Velasco, that's the answer. For all the police department, again, abuse their power. Thank you very much.
Who's next?
Get trade out with Felix.
Hi, I'm Angelica Garza. know me as Frank Alvarado's sister that was murdered July 10th, 2014. In May of 2014, I was told to call 911 and ask for mental health trained officers. I did that. I had to do that on my son. He was 8 years old. He's diagnosed with behavioral problems and autism. 2 cops came to my home. 2. A white cop and a Latina cop. I asked if they were both mental health trained. I had been crying all week because I've had a lot of stress with my son, getting his meds, getting the right therapy at home for my son. I'm the biggest advocate for my son. 2 cops came. When they asked me what triggered his episode of violence, I told the female cop, my phone didn't work. She said, I don't know if you understand what I said. I don't want to know what happened last month, last week, or yesterday. I want to know what triggered this episode on your son. Once again, I told her my phone didn't work and he got mad. She at the 3rd time, she rolled her eyes at me and I said, not in my home will you disrespect me. Then I did say a word to her and I said, if you'd listen, I told you twice already. My phone didn't work. After that, the white cop came up into my face and said, listen, you called us. We didn't call you. And no wonder your son has autism, because of you. And I let him have it. As a mother that had to fight to get my son into good health care in Monterey, I fought for it. I got it for a couple of years. Then the insurance changed. Now my son has to go to county hospital. He's been in and out of schools here in Monterey County. And, you know, our educators, our principals of Monterey County Office of Education, Mr. Ryan, specifically told me, every time your son has an episode, call 911. Ask for mental health trained officers so they can take him to the doctor and then get a 5150. Well, I figured it out. The state wants my son's Social Security, his Medi-Cal, state and federal monies. They will not incarcerate my son. I will fight for my son. And this goes out to all the school districts because they're wanting to take my son for the 2nd year in a row to live in a group home. I've advocated for that little boy, my son, and nobody will take him away. And cops should not be telling educators, and educators should not be telling parents to call 911 because they are not in any way trained for mental illness. My son had therapy at my home. Those 4 different companies that came to my home did not know how to deal with them. And the one that Monterey County gave me to my home was a nice guy, the therapist, but he had no degree. He was working on children's things, and his degree is in journalism. I fight for the best for my son. I've not given up on my son, and I have not given up on my brother. I will not give up on anybody. Mental illness is not a crime. You will have to incarcerate me before you take my son. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce City Councilman Jose Castaneda.
Today is another day where we get to see the same usual practice in this city of Salinas. Let me just name the 3 systems that continue to abuse the majority of the members that live in this city. Out of 155,000 residents, 75% is Latino, Mexican American, and also that make up the hard-working campesinos, farm workers that live out there in East Salinas, in my district area. 80,000 make up half of this city, who continue to get exploited in this $8 billion, I said billion, not million, $8 billion industry. And the three systems that continue to abuse us for decades. And then you will never hear this from a channel like KBSW. It's news that you should never count on whatsoever. And you never hear this from the meager-minded reporters, the Salinas Californian, who have been doing this for 100 years to our people here. You'll never hear that. That's why we always have to stay independent or stick to our native tongue, language as well. Univisión, Telemundo, que sigue cargando la noticia como debe que ser. So what we need to do is exploit these systems as well. The biggest one that has been doing this to our people here is the hospitals. That's one. The second one is the school districts. This is a segregated school district system that we continue to have in Salinas. Nowhere else would you have that system, only in Salinas. Just like we have 2 Walmarts in this city as well. The third one happens to be law enforcement. Let's define law enforcement because it starts all the way with the courts, where 9 out of 10 judges, no coincidence, but they're out of the district attorney's office. And we have the district attorney's office himself, who has been planted and seated there, who has pretty much has continued this whitewash system with the local police departments, as well as the corrections here with the jails. Let's not forget about the probation and the parole system here as well. So this job security system continues round and round. Again, the 3 systems, the hospitals, the segregated school district we have here, districts, as well as the law enforcement. Any given day of the week, go to the court department. Our good friend Felix here knows that because he makes it a bottom feeder life of doing that on a daily basis at the court system. And you can catch them on any of those floors, from the basement all the way to the 3rd floor. And you're going to see people that look like us. Not people that look like run news stations or the editors there that live in the other side of the lettuce curtain, Pebble Beach, Carmel. The list goes on and on over there. You're going to see people that look like us with public defenders. So it's no wonder that we continue to do this. But today is the last day for these folks to continue picking up their paychecks and running from ambulance chasers, running from story to story. Their day is coming to an end already. Our folks, well, you know the truth. And the truth is going to come to that mayor as well. The same mayor that helped cover up not too long ago when he worked at this police department, Fernando Armenta's crime at his house. That same mayor is going to have to know the truth as well. We're going to have that day. And I know he fears us because of that as well. So he can go ahead and do the same thing over and over. And the media knows this already. Do your research. It's there. It's always been there. But see, because the county, with the DA, with the other politicians that we have here, continue to watch, including the grand jury. Including the grand jury as well. You need to ask, who is this jury foreperson? And see what type of ties they have to the police department as well. Those are the questions that need to be asked. But see, nobody's doing that. But we will. We'll continue to do that. Our communities now know not to rely to KBSW anymore. That racist bigot, Heston, won't show his face in our community whatsoever. Never will. The closest he'll get to Mexican food is Taco Bell. Other than that, no more for you, Mr. Meager-minded Mitchell. Windshield Donuts is on the other side with the rest of the police. Let's go. So let's go and continue. All of us, every single one of us here, will make sure that the 65% of the youth that make up this city will have the representation, regardless of what they do to me, regardless of what they've done to these families, and regardless of what they continue to do to us. And about surveillance, I agree. No one, whether you're an elected official or a professional, should ever be intimidated. But you know what? That's been going on for so damn long already in this city. You're intimidated, threatened, harassed by the same police department. And it continues to happen over and over. The Federal Investigation Civil Rights Division, they can't ignore this anymore whatsoever. Just like they can't ignore the salad bowl of the world. Without us, this is not the salad bowl of the world. Without us, this is the toilet bowl of the world.
You mentioned
Unidos. ¿Estamos unidos?
Sí.
¿Se puede?
Sí se puede.
Seguimos adelante luchamos hasta el final. Ya no tenemos. Aquí continuamos otra vez. Seguimos adelante. Estas prácticas de abuso van a continuar y no van a parar hasta que nosotros tomamos el día unidos y lo vamos a seguir, educar y informar a nuestros jóvenes. No es un secreto quién es la mayoría de esta ciudad y estos abusos. No es un secreto si vas al sistema de corte y quién son los que están afectados, las familias y los prisioneros también. Vamos a hacer algo que nunca se ha hecho y esa acción va a empezar martes, aquí martes, a las 3 de la tarde. ¿Estamos de acuerdo?
Sí.
Seguimos adelante.
¿Qué
Gracias.
tipo de acción?
So Jose, you're here with the people. Answer the question. Did you lie about trying to get into the
This
jail?
is the first time and the last time that I will address you and KBSW. So get this ready. Get your recorder on. First time and the last time I will address you.
There's a lot of questions.
If stupidity can be measured by height, you will be the epitome of stupidity. Thank you.
Jose,
Are you going to pay this $5,000 fine, Jose?
Jose.
We'd like to thank everyone for coming.
We need justice.
Please respect the families.
Justice. We don't need justice.
No peace.
No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Yeah. Go back and go back. You guys, you were sued federally. You were sued federally in 1980 for not having any Mexicans. What? And you started hiring people, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Also, no report what happened at the hospital. Major conflict with KPW and the people at the hospital, right? You guys do all of their infomercials. So when that $5 million bail out with the CEO was there, you guys did it. Put on the cameras. Thank you.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Jose, what about you?
Oink, oink, same thing. Every day the same old thing. Oink, oink, bang, bang. Every day the same old thing.
Oh yeah, he's working first. Relax, it's okay.
Well, yeah, ours.
Entonces fue mentira que usted pidió entrar a la cárcel y siempre pasar con familiares de Velasco. Fue mentira.
Adriana, es muy claro, Adriana. La verdad es la verdad. Gracias. Es muy claro. La verdad es la verdad. Y no vamos a estar aquí defendiendo mentiras para nada. El abogado John Burris era muy claro y directo en lo que sucedió. La policía anda utilizando política sucia y no es la primera vez. Esto también sucedió en un caso en mi casa, donde tenemos dos tenentes del departamento de policía y me persiguieron. Y estaban ahí todo el día y este es el mismo departamento que dice que no tiene recursos, que nosotros necesitamos que para a pasar más impuestos para ayudarlos. Puro mentira. Lo que le conviene a ellos lo hacen. Y eso es lo que sucedió en estos casos. Siguen utilizando este tipo de tácticas para intimidarme, para sacarme de no representar a mi comunidad, a mi pueblo, pero eso no va a ser algo que va a trabajar.
¿Qué tiene que importante el gran jurado a conocer acerca del posible sufrimiento en el concilio con todo lo que está pasando? ¿Qué tiene que decir a eso?
En el reporte del gran jurado que yo todavía a la fecha no ha visto desde el principio. Entonces lo que yo debo que hacer es análisis de ese reporte del gran jurado. Pero lo que sí puedo decir, el sistema que tenemos aquí en este condado de Monterrey y cómo trabaja con el gran jurado es los mismos peones que trabajan para el sistema. ¿En qué ando refiriendo en esto? El gran jurado recibe su aviso, sus consejos por la oficina fiscal, que es la oficina procurador de Infrepo. Ellos también reciben su guianza y consejo por el abogado del condado, que trabaja por Fernando Armenta, el mismo que me trató de hacer amenazas y me hizo las amenazas, trató de meterme en problemas también en el sistema de corte. Todo eso está documentado. También lo que debe que investigar y preguntar es cuáles son estos miembros que supone que son miembros de nuestra comunidad. Y vas a mirar que esos miembros no se miran como nosotros. Ellos son miembros que trabajan o antes trabajaban y son jubilados del mismo departamento de policía.
Entonces la respuesta es que es un complot en contra suya de todas las autoridades. ¿Cuál es la respuesta?
No me va a sorprender que todo esto viene siendo conflicto de interés en todas las partes de ellos, pero ¿quién tiene ese valor y de enseñarles y ponerse enfrente de ellos, de decirles sus conflictos y de sacarles sus verdades? Pero vamos a seguir adelante, Adriana y Michelle. Todos seguimos adelante. El martes tenemos otra acción aquí en la ciudad. El concilio debe que escuchar. Somos, que le dicen, la ciudad de todas las ciudades en esta nación, que es considerado la ciudad americana. Pues vamos a ver si eso es verdad.
Parece que el gran jurado, a lo que hemos estado leyendo del reporte, es que el concilio necesita crear algún tipo de política para remover a miembros del concilio que
tengan conducta cuestionable o que tengan cuestiones de conducta.
Como le dije,
no,
no ha visto Michelle el reporte, pero claro, me voy a informar en lo que dice. La primera cosa también es me voy a reunir con los abogados que tengo. Ellos van a estar aquí para el 1 de julio. El señor Ed Fry de Santa Cruz, el señor Anthony Prince de Berkeley, de San Francisco. Entonces ellos dos me andan dando los consejos que ocupo en este tiempo. A la misma vez, en el poco que compartió conmigo Michelle, si eso es lo que anda refiriendo, no me sorprende. Otra vez, este concilio con el alcalde, que es jubilado del departamento de policía también, ellos han hecho tantas amenazas en contra de mí desde que empecé mi término de concejal, desde noviembre de 2012, conjuntamente con esa abogada Vanessa Vallarta, que ahora es juez del condado de Monterrey. Entonces, lo que sí vamos a estar seguros es que yo no me voy a dejar y sí vamos a pelear hasta el final. Este es otro caso para que yo alcance y haga las llamadas a nivel federal, Departamento de Justicia en Washington, D.C., sobre la ley federal, el acto de votaciones.
Okay, very quickly in English, Jose, grand jury report came out today. Any thoughts on it? Apparently it seems like they're saying that the city council needs to create some sort of policy to remove council members when they don't obey the law.
Michelle, I have not seen the grand jury report, nor have I been given the opportunity to even give them my input, which to me, that is appalling. At the same time, Michelle, it would not surprise me whatsoever that this is coming from a grand jury that is guided, clearly it's guided by the district attorney's office, Dean Flippo, as well as the county council, who serves under Mr. Fernando Armenta's capacity as board of supervisors, which is the same person that's been trying to remove me from my city council position. That's all documented there as well. The jury, I'm going to look at what is the jury makeup, who are these individuals, because I can clearly find out if there's any conflicts of interest of this makeup. It wouldn't surprise me either that there's some members of the police department here in Salinas, which is very evident that I have been strong and a vocal and staunch supporter of what has happened to my community in the 5 incidents that occurred last year, including this incident that has happened to this young man with mental illness.
So long story short, I mean, do you think they're personally out to get you?
This is absolutely, Michelle, absolutely, and I'll tell you why. When you have someone that doesn't go with the grain, you have someone that doesn't rubber stamp their agendas and that questions everything from beginning to end, obviously you're not part of the status quo. We have a system of status quo that has been protecting each other for so long. In my community, since I've been elected, my job was to question everything and to expose these conflicts that have arisen as well. It starts with the city attorney's office, the city manager himself, as well as the mayor, who has helped cover up some of these things himself. leakage of confidential reports, as well as some of these council members who themselves are operating under the so-called rules of decorum. So we have a rules of decorum that was initiated 1 week before I took office, the oath of office. It happened again, the second bite of the apple. That happened not too long ago, but a couple months ago. So they can restrict me, which I call handcuffs. They're handcuffs and restrictions. At the same time, they continue to do that. So we're going to go ahead and look at the Department of Justice level, Washington, D.C., under the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
My last question, some people would say, Jose, there's an easy solution to this. Pay the $5,000, we're done deal. Is it, it seems like a simple solution.
It's an interesting question, Michelle. I have never been a person to roll over. We have two other council members that are supposed to represent the East Salinas area. And I see them already playing with the grain. They're going with the flow. So to have another council member to do that, I think they have enough of us already in the pocket.
Are you going to pay the $5,000?
Well, if you don't have the means to pay for that, why would you do that? But my protest happens to be how the whole action in itself was illegal. How do you go from having a dispute resolution meeting in about 12 to 14 months, and all of a sudden through these channels, again the status quo, have their own channels, getting in front of a judge in a record-breaking time of 8 months? That is just unheard of. But only in Monterey County, that system would work that way. And it has not only happened to me, it's happened to the special tax proponents. They themselves have faced a similar action to them. These are people that make up pretty much our community. Yet the city continues to violate their Voting Rights Act as well. So I'm not the only one. And the example continues to happen over and over and over. So there is a trend in the city.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else you want to add?
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Everyone that has clearly been affected, not only through civil rights violations, but through the voting rights violations, you need to take a stand. You can't be in the middle. You're either for it or you're against it. And I say that only because this is something that has been happening even before I came into the arena of public policy at the city and school district level. I'm looking at the so-called makeup of our cities and those Latino elected officials. Where are you at? Why haven't you spoke out? Why out of the many elected officials here, why is it that I'm the only one that continues to put this in the forefront for debate and discussion? So I'm calling out those absent officials who are there but really are not being seen whatsoever by our community. So thank you, Michelle, and we're going to continue these actions, and we look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday for the city council meeting.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Michelle.